Hello there. Gotta kind of get myself a little comfortable. Today's message is one Papa God has been nudging, no, pushing me to share. And if I'm honest, I was dragging my feet like a toddler at bedtime who suddenly remembered they need water. I just had a procedure done yesterday, and so I'm really uncomfortable. But he said this is pressing time, and somebody needs to hear this because it's their confirmation too. So, because this isn't just a teaching, this is my story, my family's story, my body's story, and the miracle God wrote right in the middle of something that should have broken me. You know, cancer wasn't a stranger in my family. It felt like it was hiding behind the curtains, waiting on somebody. My Aunt Nicole, we called her Aunt Coley. Coley drank a lot, even though she had a young toddler named Gavin. But also caught cancer and didn't know it and didn't go to the doctor. And Gavin found her. Even beside him, she still had this book she was reading to him clutched in her hand, and was turning slightly green. So Gavin had his way of reaching Uncle Pat and telling him to come home. I miss my Uncle Pat. Um, One of the funniest memories I have is when I moved back to California from Virginia. Uncle Pat came over and did like a investigation, he called it, or something, um, to check out because he said now I've moved on up, like the Jeffersons to the east side. It was El Cajon, but so he went through my cupboards and he pulled out the top ramen and he said, "This is white trash. I'm confiscating it." I said, "Well, if you're going to eat it, then you're white trash." He goes, "Well, I haven't gone up to the east side yet, like you." I still coincide with the white trash, and I just was laughing. And he just always said and did crazy things, but basically, he thought it was acne. He had like a breakout on his face, and he kept picking at it, and he um he didn't go to the doctors. He just kept picking at it, assuming it was acne, and it began to grow something pretty large, a good amount of his face before he finally went. And by then, because he waited too long, they said it was cancer, and he ended up dying fast. And it went up to like half his face was covered in this. I can never describe to you. It was horrible. Um, so Gavin lost, both his parents at a young age. And I know my uncle Pat was drinking a lot after Coley died. And some part of him must have died too when she died, because I found a picture Papa God put in front of me of both of them sitting side by side in love, both with beer in their hand, and wanted a child first, kind of like me and Walter, but they made sure to get married and then had a child, and then this played out. Anyway, my great grandmother, Kate Westfield, my grandma's mom, had cancer in her eyes. She went blind before she even knew something was wrong. First, it was one eye and then the other, and she just took it as, she's getting old. And it turns out that it was much more serious than that. Um, and, she died even before I was born. And my precious grandma Katherine, she lost her beloved husband to throat cancer from smoking. So when years later, doctors spoke the words to me, my whole body remembered. My spirit remembered. My knees remembered and nearly hit the floor. Um, Before I even got pregnant with my sweet little, my body had me crying out for help. I'm gonna suck on some ice here and there. So forgive me because I get a little dry mouth. It is Krista's cafeteria after all. Why wouldn't we expect to come and eat too? But I was working as a home health nurse, lifting patients like I was training for the Olympics. And my spine was like, girl, we did not sign up for the CrossFit training. I hit hard at McDonald's. I fell in my bedroom. I fell pushing the stroller. I fell just walking. The last fall, face first, whack to the cement. I had a knot so big it looked like I was growing a second forehead. When the MRI results came back, the doctor explained something I will never forget. He said the epidural fluid from my emergency C-section from Whittle never reabsorbed in my body. It had been trapped there for years, like forgotten water in a dark closet, no longer clean, no longer harmless. It grew bacteria and it was eating my spine like termites in wood. The doctor looked right at me and said, if we don't fix this, it's going to turn into bone cancer. And you cannot chase bone cancer. That sentence still echoes in my mind. I remembered my grandpa Buckmeyer. I remember watching cancer take people I loved. And I thought, Lord, don't let this be my story. They told me I needed multiple surgeries. One from the front, opening my stomach to get to the front of my spine and drain it. And one from the back, full spinal reconstruction. Like first day, 8 hours, shaved my head and cut me head to butt. And then the next day, it was another 8-hour surgery where they cut my stomach straight line down. Rods and screws, a whole 360 stabilization. They even got me here in the lymph nodes. Like it was like a slash to my throat to clear out all of it, to leave no bacteria behind. Cleaning out, this infected fluid that was being transferred, into my body and beginning to seep into other places, which would have most certainly been deadly. But they even corrected the S-shaped scoliosis spine I had for quite some time and didn't even know it. I sat there thinking, God, how am I supposed to survive this? And if the surgeries weren't enough, the complications came like a parade I never asked to attend. I shared a hospital room with a man who had pneumonia, which is airborne. We had a curtain between us, like that was supposed to do anything. Sure enough, not long after discharge, boom, guess what I caught? Pneumonia. The airborne, went my way. Then there was hepatitis A. That one transferred my feces. Oh no, I'm sorry. They told me it was transferred by feces. Yes, feces. I felt so disgusted. I wanted to scrub my skin off, even. The public health nurse investigated, checking restaurants, questioning me, and what did they find? I had likely picked it up on the bus or the trolley going to my visits for Whittle, surrounded by homeless individuals who were sick, unwashed, touching everything. My immune system, already devastated by all these surgeries, didn't stand a chance. Right after that, mono. I said, "Isn't that the kissing disease?" The doctor laughed and said, "Well, technically, yes, but mainly it's saliva. Someone could sneeze or cough in that welfare office and, rub it on a chair or something you touched. And wouldn't you know it, it was after sitting in that public welfare office trying to just renew my Medi-Cal after surgery, surrounded by germs. I swear I needed to live in a plastic bubble at this point because it kept sending me back to the hospital." um, and I told uh, the social worker I had to start advocating for myself and these visit battles. And I told her I need visits to be at my home. I can't keep braving 2 hours on public transportation each way and catching every disease the city has to offer. She said, "Well, if you're sick, maybe you shouldn't have, visits." And I said, "No, ma'am, I am not too sick for my daughter. I'm too sick for the germs." I called my doctor. Within 24 hours, the social worker had a letter in her box saying, "For now, home visits are medically necessary." God opened that door so fast it made her head spin. Carrie's too. Um, but I faced MRSA next too. The kind of infection that makes you rethink everything. But then came something hopeful. They told me I qualified for something called stem cell therapy, and they'd bank them for me. Since then, I've always kept that hope tucked in my pocket, knowing that if anything tries to flare up again, they can use my own stem cells to fight it, is what they even did yesterday. So, anyway, even after spinal surgery, I wasn't standing straight. My neurosurgeon said, "Let's help your spine help you." Insurance approved a breast reduction. I went from a 44 triple D to about a 38C. Life changing. I was trying to think of the words to say. Ladies, if you're suffering, don't wait. Your body deserves relief. You don't have to carry those big, big things around. I love, love, love my kids, and I had the opportunity to nurse every one of them. So I don't never blame them, and I didn't even know it was possible. But I keep finding out there's a whole new world, especially in technology. So, Grandma Katherine, the woman who loved me whole, it's her I think about, and while we're talking about bodies breaking down, Let me tell you about my grandma, Catherine Moran. My anchor. She was my protector my whole life. The one who called me love. And then my children, too. The very same name um, she used on all of us until the day she passed away. But she fell sick in her late 80s. She called me and said, I'm sick. My soul is tired, and I'm ready to go rejoin my husband and mother again. So I rushed to her. I crawled into her hospital bed with her, even like she did when I was a child, and stayed with her for 9 days. Her body was frail. Her voice drifted between this world and the next. Her voice drifted between. Sorry, I got distracted that there's now planes even at night and that loud and that close. Remember, that's called warfare. I'm doing it. I'm doing it though. He's going to keep nudging me to keep going. So, what I was saying was, before she left, I said, thank you, Grandma, for loving me and making up for everything my parents couldn't or wouldn't do. She told me, you'll have another little girl someday. Just have faith. Years later, I think only 2, I had Everly Faith Catherine. Some people say she's my grandma reincarnated. I believe them. So, through all of this, I think about Walter too. I know he was scared. He didn't know how to help. He had no experience with sickness, no idea what to do with surgeries and tubes and medication lists that were growing longer than the CVS receipts. But he tried. He slept in the chair next to me. He stayed. And looking back, I see his heart, even if he didn't know how to show it. So, speaking of God's nudges, when God wants something done, he will not let you ignore him. That commercial kept popping up over and over again. Another one getting my attention to something very, very specific like this. I was like, all right, Papa, I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Then the biggest miracle, the money I needed, I know wasn't there on my Cash App. But then suddenly, after I agreed to what he said, I looked and the money was there. I witnessed a real miracle. There was no mistake on who did that. And it took me back, and he said, I'm never going to cease to amaze you. I said, no shit. Wow. You are amazing, and you do not cease to amaze me. I mean, he's doing more and more things. I can't wait to show you, just to show how real he is. That's how much he wants this testimony shared too. Because this message for whoever needs this, family, if you're facing sickness or fear or uncertainty, you are not alone. I am living proof that God will carry you when you cannot walk. He will guide you when you cannot see. He will whisper when fear is screaming. He will fight for you when your strength is gone. Papa God is still writing my story, and He's still writing yours. If you're watching this, you were meant to. He is saying, you are not alone. You are not forsaken. And I am still the God who heals. Come home. I love you guys. I will see you soon. And I'm proud of you for being here today. Let's walk in our healing together, okay? All right, guys. Until next time. Bye.